Hey y'all, good evening, buenas noches. How is everybody? I see y'all are in the chat already. Hey Adrian, um, where in the world is Adrian? Because who knows what time it is in the middle of the night where you are. I see Shonda, I see Dee, I see Rashida, Winnie. Hey y'all. Um, I'm sorry if I'm moving a little slow. I just got up from my nap and it was a glorious nap. So I'm not fully back up to full steam just yet. Okay. Um, Ivana's here, Junket, Eleanor. Um, welcome. Tonight we are going to attempt to answer the question, are you behind financially? But before we jump into that, we are going to, before we jump into that, I told y'all I'm a little slow right now. Oh, yeah, I was going to introduce myself in case you happen to be new here and you have no idea who I am or what we do around here. Let me move this microphone. My name is Adelia Aborashade. And many people know me on the internet as Picky Girl Travels the World. I am the founder of the Picky Girls Travel Solo Facebook group, which is for Black women and femmes who travel solo. Doesn't matter if you are a brand new solo traveler, you have tons of experience, none of that matters. Our group is open to you. I am also the creator of the Financial Confidence Academy, where I help women, Black women, women of color, um, learn about their finances so that they can move forward confidently and make choices that put them on the path to living the life of their dreams. On this channel, we talk about travel. We talk about living abroad. I currently live in the beautiful, wonderful, fabulous Mexico City. We also talk about money. So if any of those things like float your boat, this is the channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification button so you know when I go live like this, which I typically do on Wednesday evenings. So I see several folks in the chat talking about Exodus Summit. I'm still on a high from Exodus Summit myself. Exodus Summit happened this past weekend. It was all about money, how you can make more money, how you can make new money. It was just an incredible event. So shout out to the Exodus Summit crew, Rashida, Dow, Stephanie, Perry. And so I think that partly influenced what we're going to talk about tonight. In the work that I do, helping women, plan moves abroad or fix their finances, a lot of times, I get well, I think it might be too late for me. I'm such and such age. I don't know, that might be for young people. And if you were here last week and you saw the interview I did with Deborah, who is 65, who moved out of the United States at 64, you know how we feel about that. There is no such thing as too late. Well, in many of the sessions during the summit this past weekend, there was a little bit of conversation about like, oh, like my money's not where I want it to be. I wish I had known this before. I feel like I'm behind. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit more and kind of explore like what exactly that means. Is there any truth to it? How can you tell if you actually are behind? So on and so forth. So if y'all got any thoughts about this topic, please drop them in the chat. I don't know how to pronounce this. One, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Most people probably feel financially behind to some extent. You are actually right. When I started to like do a little bit of research on this topic, I came across, um, can I make me smaller? I came across this. Oh, okay. I'm figuring stuff out. Haha, look at that. I came across this report research project. I don't know, mint.com, which many of you know as a budgeting app, did a survey and gathered the responses. And a significant portion of Americans, I think it was like 79%, felt like they were behind. And I found it very interesting the topics that they felt they were behind on. And so that's what we're looking at right now. This is where the majority of Americans feel they are falling behind compared to their peers. Um, um, oh, look at me switching back and forth like I know what I'm doing. Hey, now. Okay. So, yes, you are right. There are a lot of people who feel they are behind. Ah, okay. Phaedra. Because I was like, PhD, Adrian. I was struggling. Thank you. Phaedra. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so yes, you are right. To a certain degree, people do feel like they are behind. I see Mind Your Business 82. For me, I turned 40 this year and I just started saving for retirement. That has me feeling behind. I know it can have you feeling behind. But you might want to take some solace in the fact that the vast majority of Americans have virtually nothing saved for retirement. So the fact that you're starting puts you ahead of a lot of folks. Okay. Um, Before we go further, I'm not going to try and keep up with the chat. My brain is not firing on enough cylinders to do that. I'm just going to make sure I pay attention in my notes. Okay. So we've established that you're definitely, if you are somebody who's feeling like you haven't met the milestones that you were supposed to have met financially by this point in your life, like how much money you were supposed to have at 20, 30, so on and so forth. You are not alone. I think this is interesting. If I can remember how to get it back up here. Okay. This is that same Mint survey where they drill down to what people feel behind on. Um, things like finding a life partner, marriage, buying their first home, um, and having, establishing career success, building uh, retirement savings. Notice that the average age that people think like you're supposed to have that together is 39, 40. So, you're to me, doesn't seem like you're behind. And then that last column in the yellow, these are the groups who are most concerned about that. I don't see any real surprises here. Is it a big shock that the folks from age 45 to 54 tend to be the most concerned about, like, am I where I'm supposed to be for retirement? No, because it's about that age where you start getting really tired of that job, working, all of that stuff. So, but so you're not alone. Uh, and I wanted to dig into a little bit of like where this comes from, this notion like that you're supposed to find a life partner at this age, you're supposed to buy a house at this age, you should have X amount of money saved for retirement at this age. Where does that come from? Um, I don't know. What do y'all think? Like, did someone give you a checklist? Like, where are we getting these numbers that by your, you should you have your first house by your early 30s? Where are we getting that? I'm curious because I got no instruction book. I turned 18 and I moved out, and it was like, girl, figure it out for yourself. So I am curious, where do y'all think we're getting that from? Definitely, Shonda, society. Society gives us these expectations. Um, Okay, this is interesting, Jasmine. I think a lot of us look at, well, where were my parents when they were my age? What had they achieved by this point? Um, but that's a slippery slope right there, because your parents did not come of age in the same economic situation you did. And I'm not just talking about, like increased prices and inflation. Um, you know, the world, especially I think about younger millennials, Gen Z, like what their parents were able to do and the world that they live in now, like two totally different planets. Um, Interesting that you say this, Winnie. It hadn't occurred to me, but there is some truth for this, because when you live in the United States, the experience of white Americans becomes the default experience, and it becomes the yardstick that we measure everything by. So for those of us who are not white folks, trying to measure where we're supposed to be financially, comparing ourselves and our what is the word I'm looking for? The boxes we're supposed to tick to a group of people for whom the system was designed purposefully. That's a losing game right there. So that, I hadn't considered that, but I think you're 100% right. I like this question, F Doctor. Why does everything need to be quantified? Who says so? Where is all of this coming from? And that's how I feel, um, especially when so many people kind of like count themselves out based off of these supposed benchmarks that really have no real meaning, no real place for them. Um, okay. And so some of it, I think, also comes from, like, yes, we know white society kind of determines some of what we're supposed to be trying to achieve. And then some of it, we talked about, like, comes from us trying to replicate or supersede what our parents were able to do. But a lot of it, I also think, comes from, you look around at your friends, you look around at, now in this world of social media, you look around at social media at what people are showing, and we have to remind ourselves that what people show on social media is not real life, not always. The folks who show you, the ups and the downs and the good and the bad, those people are far more the exception on social media than the rule. So we're comparing ourselves to others. And there was a thing in the, here it is. Okay. This is what I want to talk about when it comes to like comparing yourself to others. Hold on, I don't want to put this up yet. We base our comparisons, like you're talking with your friends about, like, this is how much I made, or, oh, I'm thinking about buying a house, or, oh, this is how much I have in my 401k, all of that. But, and I know y'all can hear the dog, who I swear, she sleeps in the bed all day. And the minute she sees the lights on and me sitting in front of the computer, she's like, oh, now it's time for me to walk back and forth. Anyway, but I think comparing ourselves to our friends and people we know, That's also similar. It has the same downfall as comparing ourselves and our lives to the people who are on social media. Because just like the folks on social media only show you what, select things, we don't talk about everything with all of our friends, with all of the people in our circle. And that's what this other question um, was from. This is that same Mint survey. This breaks down the money topics that may still be taboo, because we've discussed on this channel before how, on the whole, in American culture, we don't like to talk about money. And so notice, of the people who will talk about these things, um, salary and income level is the thing that they will talk about the most. Savings, retirement, debt, credit scores. Actually, I think I'm reading this backwards. I think that's the thing that they will talk about the least. Because I was reading in this piece that most people will, 60% of folks will talk about their credit scores, even though most people haven't checked their credit score in over a year. So like that seems like a safe thing to talk about. But getting into the nitty gritty of how much money you've saved for retirement, how much you're making at your job, for those of you that attended Exodus Summit in Teen Zekis's session where she was talking about like how to get compensated fairly. That's one of the things she stressed, was about getting in there and finding out from people, how much are you making? Don't make any assumptions. That not talking about how much you make doesn't, it helps the company, it hurts you. Adrian asked a good question. Why don't we talk about finances? I don't know what the reason is in other cultures, but in American culture, I think part of it is about how you're supposed to appear. Like, everybody's supposed to look like they're middle class or above. And if you get too much into the weeds, you start to figure out that, hey, it's a whole lot of us that are not. Like, the idea that the majority of the people in the US are middle class is a big fat lie. I think that's one of the reasons. I think specifically for the Black community, it's not been something we talked about because it's not been something we've had a lot of access to. Like, nobody wants to share, my finances suck. People want to talk, when people do want to talk about money, it's because something good has happened or they're doing very well. And if you think about historically, disenfranchised folks, marginalized folks, the conversations we could have about money weren't really, really great ones. So yeah. I'll come back and look through the comments because y'all are saying a lot of stuff that I'm not getting to. So yeah, we don't talk a lot about money. So if this notion of I'm supposed to be at this point in my life is based off of what you see other people doing, you're only getting part of the story. You're not getting the full reality. And so I think that just complicates things, and it makes me dislike this whole idea of, these financial benchmarks even more. Like, I think it's kind of all meaningless personally. Okay. Before I go to my next point, let me come back because y'all are saying some good things in the chat, and I feel like I'm missing out. And I don't want to feel that way. Okay. All right. All right. Pink Sundoll, oh 08. I'm 43 and I'm very behind on saving for retirement. At this rate, I will need to work until I am 80. Okay. I think your comment kind of leads to the next thing I was going to talk about anyway, that really, instead of us using other people as benchmarks or using other people to help us decide what those benchmarks should be, we really should be looking at what are our goals. I'm going to guess that your goal was not to work until 80. If your goal was to stop working at 45, then yeah, you probably behind. And I think a lot of us, and this is something we talked about this past weekend at Exodus Summit, or at least I think I talked about it in my session, that you really have to figure out what it is that you want first. Because a lot of this notion of, oh, I'm behind, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, it's based on other people. It's not really based on, well, what's the life you want? And we've discussed on this channel numerous times that a lot of us got caught up in trying to pursue the American dream because that's what we were told we were supposed to do, Black excellence, all of that stuff. And instead of taking a beat and figuring out what it was that we really wanted, because that would, I think, totally change what our benchmarks are, whether or not we have achieved them, what have you. Okay, I know you're not in here saying this, Shauna. I'm seriously starting to feel like, oh, okay. I missed the last part about the states. I'm seriously starting to feel like we will never have enough for retirement in the states. Okay, because I didn't see that part. And I was like, hold on. That was the whole point of my talk, is like, you can make it happen. You just may have to tweak some things. For those of you who want to retire stateside, it is going to be expensive. And so that's going to mean you're going to have to make some adjustments along the way. I think it is possible, but you may have to redefine or really examine, what do you want your retirement to look like in the States? It may look differently. I love to see this, Auntie Trey. I wrote out what I want my life to look like and got better clarity. I can do this. Yes. Yes. Okay. I see several people in here bemoaning the bear market, and that adding to them having that feeling like I may not be where I'm supposed to be. Um, Did Chanda explain the bear market in here? I don't know, because several people asked. Basically, it's a time when the market is not growing. That's a bull market. What we're experiencing right now, that's a bear market. It's very, very sluggish. All right, Simi, I feel behind on finding a life partner. Says who? Okay. All right. Thank you, Faye. Fedra? Fedra? I forgot. I'm sorry. Bear market, stocks decline of 20%, all time. It's downward trend, losing value. Um, so yeah. Okay. Miss Pollyanna Sunshine says, yes, tired of working. And here comes Adrian. And tired of people. I feel that. Okay. All right. Let me see what else. I saw okay. So yeah, I would definitely say that before you get caught up in this, I am behind. How do you know if you are behind? If you never really spelled out where you want to be, when you want to be there, and examined why you want to be there at that point. So for example, like Simi mentioned, she fell behind on finding a life partner. Well, according to this survey, people think you're supposed to do that in your 20s. In your 20s, you don't even know who the hell you are. So how are you going to join your life with somebody else's successfully? And I say this as somebody who got married at 19 and learned the hard way that you don't know who the hell you are when you're that young. So if your idea is, I should have been married by the time I was 25, I would challenge you to Why do you feel that way? Where is that number 25 coming from? I suspect that when you start to dig a little deep and you start to ask yourself those questions, you'll find out that that number, that benchmark isn't coming from you, it's coming from somewhere else. And so my challenge to you all is, when you're determining whether or not you're on point with your benchmarks, make sure that they're your benchmarks and not some that society has given you, that your parents have given you, or whatever. Shauna says, I was feeling behind about not owning a home, but I helped my son buy a house. And now that I'm his maid, practically, I don't want one of my own. Here's the thing. I think home ownership was sold to us as that's the mark that you've made it. But everybody is not built for that. I have owned, I guess, two, three homes total. And I don't really care for it. I could rent the rest of my life and be perfectly okay with that. And that doesn't mean like I'm a failure of an adult or what have you. It's everybody's past is going to look different. And so that's why I say make sure that as you are writing out, this is what I want, this is when I think I should achieve this by, make sure you question the why of that benchmark, why you think you should be achieving that. Is it something you really want? Is it something your parents told you you're supposed to do? Is it something that's expected of you as a Black woman? And at what age? Where's that coming from? Okay. Seeing if I'm catching up to y'all in the chat. Working twice as hard says, I love talking about money, but I'm in the minority. I don't know if I love talking about money, but I definitely feel the need to have those conversations, which is part of the reason that I do what I do. And I have this channel and the podcast and all of that. I'm that friend that asks the questions that everybody tells you you're not supposed to ask. I'm the friend who's at the wedding and says, girl, you sure you really want to do this? My car is outside. Like, I believe in having those conversations that they tell you you're not supposed to have. Oops. Okay. Maybe I'm catching up to y'all. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm only about 6 minutes back. Okay, IRB Smith. Never had a real plan about when I wanted to stop working. Just figured it would be 60 like everyone else. And I think a lot of us do that. I know personally, I figured I'd stop working in my mid 50s because I thought I would teach for 30 years, do that, and then be out. And then I looked up one day and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So what, and that kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't prepared to do that financially at the time that I had that discovery. So yeah, that's why I'm encouraging us to get really specific and really ask ourselves some questions about where we want to be before we throw up our hands and say, I am behind. I have not achieved this thing that I want to achieve or that I should achieve. And maybe there's no hope for me, because that part I do not buy at all. I don't buy that at all. I think it's the perceived judgment and fear of shame that keeps us from talking about finances. Exactly, because in the United States, we see poverty as a personal failing. Poor people are bad people. Poor people are lazy people. People are poor because something is wrong with them. So, why would you ever want to disclose any information about yourself that people would perceive you as being poor? When you think about it, it's a totally messed up, stupid system, but it keeps us locked in. We are not all on the same path. Each of our paths is different, so our goals can't be, shouldn't be the same. Figure out what works for you and what you want. Exactly. Exactly. There are a lot there. Angela mentions it too. Our capitalistic society adds a lot of judgment to finances. Uh, and that's very much true. Um, most If you think about American society, most things that we consider to be negative, um, those are we never talk about, like, well, what was the situation this person grew up in, what was the environment that no, it's always like it's a personal failing for that person. It's a personal defect. Okay, I think I am almost caught up. Ba, ba, ba. Pink Sundoll. Wait, I think it took me until last year to realize that I don't dream of labor. I do not have a dream job. I don't want to have to work for anybody. I don't want to do anything that resembles work. Exactly. And that ain't everybody. There are some people who really get into this, and there is a dream job for them. And that's great for those people. I am not one of those people. Not at all. Not at all. Okay, I'm never going to catch up to y'all in the chat, so I'm going to give up on that. Maybe I'll come back in a sec. Um, I just scrolled down to the bottom. Okay, so we talked about, all of us, most of us at some point have felt like maybe we weren't checking the box at the right point in our life. We talked about where that comes from. Now we've talked about figuring out what your goals are, and getting clarity on those. So, what happens when you look around and you see that, okay, this is the goal. This is the time I would like to achieve that by, but it don't look like it's going to happen for me. Uh, like what do you do, how do you fix that? And this is one of the things that I talked about during my presentation at Exodus Summit. It's something I've talked about on several of the finance videos on this channel, is that if it's a money thing, it's a financial thing, I don't have enough to retire by the age that I want. I don't have enough to buy the house that I want. I don't have enough to be able to go back to school to get the degree. How do we fix that? There are only two things you can do. Either you make more, or you spend less, or you do some combination of that. So it's about, if somebody is watching this and they didn't go to Exodus Summit, because I was about to make another Exodus Summit reference, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I really missed out. You should probably go to exodussummit.com and buy the replays. But for those of you that were there, in Kirsten Saunders' talk, where, and I just lost that idea where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. She was talking about the fact that so much of the financial advice and financial education out here in the world and on the internet, that when it comes to women, it's about this is how you should save more, that women are rarely encouraged to make more money. And that's the opposite of the message that men get. I have said on more than one occasion, I have a hard time telling a Black woman she needs to work more, because we work enough already as it is. But what I would say is look for ways to increase how much money you have that don't require more work from you. So if you already, I mean, I think it just speaks to the fact of how fabulous Exodus Summit was. It really does. Um, so I am not going to be the person to tell you, girl, go out there and get you five side hustles and put that money toward this financial goal. Everything in me, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not repel, withdraws from that, because I do not want to tell a Black woman she needs to work more. So if you do have a job and that is your main source of income, make sure that you are making the most money you can make at that job. That means if you haven't done already, you start having those conversations with other folks. And in particular, if you are a Black woman, find a white guy who does something similar. Find out how much he makes. And then figure out, are they paying you what they should be? Chances are they probably aren't. And so work at getting them to pay you more. That way you ain't got to do a side hustle on the weekend. Make your main hustle pay you more money. And I am of the mind, if they won't pay you more money, go someplace that will. This is something I found very interesting. All of the stuff I've read, all the people I hear talk about it, that you can increase your pay. The biggest increases you get in pay are when you go to a new employer. But think about how the US system is structured. We are told that being a job hopper is a negative thing, that they're going to hold that against you. We are encouraged to stay put at an employer. And I'm starting to really realize that that is to our detriment. So if they won't pay you what you are worth, please find somebody who will. So increase your income that way. Find, I hate to say, passive income. I did a whole video on passive income and how the vast majority of passive income streams aren't really that passive. They're, it's a continuum, but whether that is investing of some kind, whether that be in the stock market, whether that be real estate, and you can invest in real estate without being a landlord. I'm gonna take a small pause to make two plugs before I forget. If you are interested in investing in real estate, on the 26th, which I think is in 2 weeks from today, I'm going to have a guest on the Wednesday Night Live to talk about investing in real estate. While y'all don't hear me discuss that a lot, because I have been a landlord and I did not enjoy it. And it's just not something that resonates with me. It's not that I'm anti that. So I decided to bring somebody in to talk about it. So that's one option. Or you could, where is the thing? You could join my challenge that starts Sunday. The Get Started Investing Challenge is a 6-day challenge that I host a few times a year that is really intended to do exactly what the name implies, to get you started investing. I will speak from my personal experience. Y'all already know I don't like work. I'm not trying to make things complicated. This investing in the US stock market has been a way that I can grow my net worth. I can have more money without additional labor on my part. So those are my two plugs. On the 26th, we're going to be talking about real estate investment, and we're definitely going to be asking questions about how can you do it with the least amount of work, or like I said, if you're interested in investing in the US stock market and you have never done that before, you don't know where to start, or maybe you got a 401k at work and you filled out the form, but you really don't know what that is, and you're not sure if you're maximizing the opportunity there, then this challenge would be something that you would want to participate in. Okay. So I'm trying to think. Oh, so there, and I told y'all I woke up from my nap before this, so I didn't think far enough ahead to put a link to the passive income video in the description. So if you're watching this in the future, that link will be below. So one of the things I discovered when I was doing the research for that video, you can, the stuff that you own, and think about it, as folks who live in the US, consumerism is like part and parcel with being an American. So a lot of us have stuff in the house that we don't use, parts of our house we don't use. And so you can increase your income by selling that stuff or even renting it. Y'all, you can rent out your pool, you can rent out your garage, you can rent out your yard equipment. I saw somebody rented out their driveway. Those are all relatively passive ways to make money that don't require a whole lot of work for you, because that's what I'm about, keeping the work at a minimum. So if you're watching this in the future, I will have that link in the description. So either you've got to increase the amount of money that is coming in, and you should decrease your expenses as much as you can. And that may mean going through your expenses and looking and analyzing it. How are you spending your money? Or is the way you're spending your money, does that align with the goal that you've set of, I want to retire by the time I'm 55. I want to purchase a home by the time I'm 37. You know, we do have to look at our own behavior and make sure that that is in alignment as well. And then eliminate those things that we can. And I'm never going to tell you to deprive yourself, because I don't believe in that. I'm not going to tell you, you know, sleep on the floor and have 2 bowls and 1 spoon. I'm not about that life. But also, if you are paying for things that you don't really use, that aren't super important to you, and that money could be applied toward you meeting this goal, well, then let's do that. Okay. Okay. See, I had scrolled down, caught up in the comments, and then y'all got ahead of me again. Okay. I'm scrolling. I'm already got my feet pick plan, putting that together. Cause that, to me, I think selling feet picks on the internet can be very close to passive depending on how you choose to do it. And I'm definitely going to try and find the least active way to do it. I really, really am. Okay. You joking, but y'all know, like, if you live near a university, there are lots of what do you call it? Not like drug testing, but there are people who do like sleep studies, where they have people go in and taste test different like formulations of products and stuff like that. So there are ways that you can rent out your body to make money in a non-sexual way. So yeah. So we're going to increase the amount we got coming in. We're going to try and decrease the amount we got going out. And we are going to be realistic and not fatalistic. Because if this thing is important to you, if it is really, if you've, you know, dug deep inside and you've examined that, I really want this thing to happen by this point, from a financial point of view, I'm convinced that you can make it happen. It's just, You're going to have to maybe tweak some things. But I think for a lot of us, when we start asking ourselves those questions, we maybe started with this long list of boxes we thought we needed to check. And then after we do the self-examination, we determine that really our list is only this big. And then it becomes a lot more doable, a lot more possible. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So if you were coming here tonight and you thought I was going to give you some numbers and tell you, well, by age 40, you should have X, Y, and Z saved. No, because I don't know your goals. I can't tell you by age 40, you should have this amount of money saved to retire, because I don't know what your retirement dream looks like. I don't know what your expenses look like. I don't know where you plan to live, how you plan to live. So there are no easy answers when it comes to things like this. A lot of things that we think are purely financial and purely numerical really involve a lot of psychology, and a lot of it is very, very mental. So yeah, let me see if there is anything else that I missed in my notes. I don't think so. So yeah, do y'all have any last minute questions? Because I think I did it. I think I've said what I want to say. Oh, work twice as hard. I don't want to buy a home. So that's one thing I've crossed off the list. Yep. I will tell y'all, when I was married, I'm not sure that this was my dream, but somehow it became my dream, to build this large custom house on acreage. And I managed most of that process. So I had to do most of the work involved. And when the house was finished and we moved in and we're furnishing it and decorating it, all that, I can remember distinctly one day walking down the hall thinking, and I know we hadn't been in that house for a month, thinking, I really don't give a damn about this. Like, I could take or leave this house. Like, this is not important to me. And I think that was one of the first times that I started to get an inkling that my goals and the things that I wanted to achieve didn't really line up with the American dream and all those things that society had taught us. And so, like, when I got divorced, I made a conscious choice not to buy another house. And oh boy, that I used to be married to was like, oh, why aren't you go buy a house? Blah, blah, blah. And I had plans, and my plans did not call for me to be tied down to a house. And I know on the outside, to a lot of people, that looks like, oh, is Adelia struggling? Is that why she's not buying a house, because she can't afford it? That just wasn't part of my plan. And I think the more we get comfortable with creating a plan that's right for us and less worried about what other folks are doing or what other folks are going to think, I think that's better. It very much is a mindset. Does your course give advice or opinion on my life hack ideas to make money? Is this question for me? Because if you're talking about the Get Started Investing Challenge, I do not give advice because I am not licensed to do that. I provide educational information. I do not give advice, but I don't know if this question was meant for me or not. You're very welcome, Cassandra. Thank you for posing the questions that we don't ask ourselves as we plan financially. What is the first piece of advice for someone who is starting from $0? For me, it comes back to what is important to you. What is it that you're trying to do, and getting as clear on that as you possibly can, because every decision you make from there, you got to ask yourself, is this in line with what I said was important to me? And if that goal is, I want to have more money to do this thing. I need to have more money. I want to increase my net worth. Um, After you've kind of, or not even after, while you are building up that oh shit money, I would also be asking myself some questions to figure out, okay, what kind of investor am I? Am I somebody who feels really comfortable with real estate? Am I somebody who would prefer to do something in the stock market? And then go from there. But to me, it always starts with getting clarity on your goals. What is your why? Okay. I'm I see this comment. It's a relief to hear you say that. I'm wondering in reference what this is in reference to. Is it something I said? I don't know. Well, and I'm looking at F Doctor's comment. You don't own a house until you got the deed in hand. Miss a payment and the bank mortgage company will come let you know who really owns it. That is 100% true. And something that piece gets left out of, when people are outlining the American dream for you, they don't mention this. And also, you you never really completely own your house, because even after you've paid the mortgage off, you still have to pay property taxes. And if you don't do that, the government will seize your property. And it is not like that in some other countries. And I didn't know that for a really, really long time. So we in the US, we like to shame people who rent or people who are unable to buy, which, like, that's messed up. And it's like, oh, but you don't have anything at the end. Well, technically nobody really does, because if you don't keep up those payments to the government, they're going to come take your stuff anyway. Okay. Um Question about the challenge. Is the course 6 straight days, or it's 1 day a week for 6 weeks? It is 6 days straight. However, it is about, like, how much of your time is going to be taken over those 6 days. It's about an hour. Because I had contemplated, I used to run the Financial Confidence Boot Camp, which was like a 5-week course. And I think we're all guilty of this. I know I am, that we sign up, we pay our money for this course, we got great intentions, and somewhere along the line, we we fall off. And with this challenge, I specifically wanted something that would help people get over the hump. And so I felt like the best way to do that was to give you a short amount of time in which to act, because that's what this challenge is about, is taking action and finally getting started investing. So it is 6 days straight, but we have Zoom calls like every other day. So there are days when you don't have to meet, but there is content for you to ingest and apply. And then, of course, if during the 6 days, like, you're like, oh, I can't meet with y'all this day, that call is recorded and you can watch it later. Okay. Uh, okay. I think, have I caught up to the last of the questions? Uh, okay. All right. So I don't see any more questions for y'all. I got dinner plans, and then I decided yesterday that I was going to make a new outfit for my trip that starts Friday. So I got to come back home and sew a pair of pants. Um, I'm trying to remember the things I'm supposed to tell you before I leave. I'm, I am off, y'all. That nap took me out. Okay, so I will post links to the video about side hustles in the description. There is a link in the description if you decide you want to participate in the Get Started Investing Challenge. Um, the challenge starts on the 16th of October 2022. Today is October 12th. This is the last time that I will run the challenge uh, this year. I knew I shouldn't have said nothing to y'all about dinner plans because I see y'all in the chat talking about a date. It is not a date. I am going out with some female friends. But for the folks who are asking if Mr. New Jersey is still in the picture, he is. So that's all I'm going to give y'all on that, though. Okay. But yes, this is the last challenge for 2022. I do not know when I will offer it in 2023. So if you have been saying, I should really be doing something, I know I need to figure out what's going on in my 401k, then this is your chance to get that, like, get on it. Like, why are we waiting? Why are we waiting? Okay. All right. I think that's it. That's it. Thank y'all for coming and hanging out with me. And I will see y'all soon. I don't know what other videos I'm posting because I got to finish my pants. But thank y'all. Subscribe, like, share, do all the stuff. Bye, y'all.